I take pleasure in introducing the speaker of the day, Dr. Preeti. And she did her MBBS in 96, in 2002, and MD Psychiatry in 2003 to 2006, both from Madurai Medical College. She underwent child psychiatric training from Dr. Jayantini, Chennai, for 2 years, and she did a certificate course in child psychiatry from NIMANS, Bangalore. She started Dr. Preeti's Child Guidance Center in 2009, which is a 10-bedded hospital in 2016. At present, she has more than 1,000 children are getting therapy for developmental disorders. She has given lectures in various IMAs and in more than 200 schools and colleges in and around Madurai. She has presented papers in state and national conferences. She was a speaker in 3 national conferences. She was awarded as the Best Social Activist Award in 2013 and Best Doctor Award from Dr. TMS Seva Sangam in 2018. An Appreciation Award from the Bench of Magistrates, Child Welfare Committee, Madurai branch in 2019. Interns from social work department, psychology and nursing are regularly posted in a center, and with a huge lot of experience in child psychiatry, and she is the apt person to deliver this lecture on school refusal. And over to her. Thank you.
And one more thing, Preeti is also a Bharatanatyam dancer. And after the speech, she will answer the questions. Dance adamatanga, bye-bye.
A very good morning, one and all. At the outset, I thank the organizers, chairpersons, for giving me this wonderful opportunity. It's my pleasure and honor to speak in front of you, teachers who taught psychiatry and child psychiatry. And today I am going to talk on school refusal, assessment and management. So let me start my presentation. I can share you a case study of a boy whom I saw 8 years back. So he was in his 6th standard and he was accompanied by his parents. He said that they had changed 6 schools for the past 3 months. He doesn't have aversion to go to school, but what happens is he attends school for a month and one fine day he goes missing from the school, and after 2 to 3 hours he's seen somewhere outside a faraway place, and he calls his mom saying that I don't remember how I came here. And in one school he had tried to jump out from the terrace, so school authorities were scary to have him, so they came for help. I first doubted whether he had any learning problems, so detailed academic assessment was done. His IQ was very above average. He had no learning problems. He scored for anxiety and depression, but not significant. He just said that I want to study, but I couldn't attend school regularly. In sentence completion test, he had expressed that mother was very loving and caring, but father was a strict person, and he wants to fulfill the dream of his father by becoming a doctor. And also child perception test revealed that he had conflicts with the parental figure, mostly father. In clinical interview, we could not get anything significant, so under narco-analysis, we were able to elicit the conflict that his father was abusing alcohol in bouts, and being a very strict person, nobody could tell him to go for treatment or get out of the problem, and all the family members were indirectly pressurizing the child. You being the elder son, you have to say to your father. So that was the actual conflict, and when those issues were addressed and we found that father too had depression, and both were treated, and he started to attend school regularly. He was under follow-up for the next 2 years, then lost follow-up. And last year he called. He told that he had joined MBBS in Gujarat and he is in his third year and he has lost his father because of alcohol and his complications. And the reason for calling me was that he started to feel worthless, helpless, though his father had expired 2 years back. He said that at that time I was able to overcome that, I was able to counsel my mother, but now I feel like I quitting like the course. So he thought it could be depression because he had the previous episode. So he was referred to a psychiatrist there. So this is the history which is etched in my memory. So in this case, first I thought it could be a learning problem or something related to school, but when we get into the case, we could find lot of things emerging out. So with this case scenario, I will next go into the goals. What are we going to discuss? So what constitutes school refusal? An ability to identify why a child is avoiding school and devise a multimodal plan. We all should know that school refusal behavior is a child-motivated refusal. So we should not see children or not attending school because they have to take care of the family. One of the parent is mentally ill or due to poverty they are working. These are all not school refusal behaviors. So it's an umbrella term which encompasses truancy, which is a non-anxiety based school refusal, and anxiety-based school refusal. So school refusal is actually, it's not a diagnosis, it's just the tip of the iceberg, and we have to unearth the problem. It is a symptom of a disorder. And to my experience, I feel that school refusal is definitely a psychiatric emergency. Children not showing up for school is equivalent to adults not showing up for work and not caring for their family needs. Sometimes parents feel that it's already Jan, the child is refusing to go to school, let him stay at home for 2 months, he can catch up in the next academic year. No, they are reinforcing their avoidant behaviors. So we have to counsel the parents, we have to take minimal steps to identify the problem and rectify it so it will not be a turbulent phase. We all know the common behaviors. They fear something related to school. They have difficulty concentrating, excessive crying. Many feign illness like headache, stomachache, nausea. They will be found restless and sometimes they withdraw from the peers. Usually teachers, they start sending referrals like this child was a very active, agile and happy child. Now we are seeing that the child is withdrawn and scoring less and the family is getting into some separation like that, kindly counsel. Like that now teachers are sensitized. So this is a very important slide. So we have to make the functional analysis. Why the child is avoiding school? So there are 4 main reasons. First is the avoidance of the negative affect provoking stimuli. Then escaping from a definite event or anxiety provoking stimuli. Third is getting attention from significant others. Fourth is the rewards which the child gets outside the school. So first is the avoiding negative affect. So to avoid school-related stress or stimuli that provoke a negative affectivity, like some children who go on to develop generalized anxiety disorder, phobia, panic disorder, these children have fear to travel in buses or work in the gymnasium, playground, or they may be having some academic issues, so they try avoiding. So it is very commonly seen in 5 to 10-year-olds, and they display difficulty during transitions. I had one boy who would go and sit in the LKG, and he told that it's fine to be there. It's okay, I will hold this ma'am I like the most, and I don't want to go to the upper kindergarten. And it took some time for him to get accustomed. So they can relax once in a place for a extended time. The main concern is they should not be in school. Some children say they will accompany the mother to the office. They sit there. They say, I don't want to go to school. I will be near you. So this is the picture. So this slide, funny slide, you can see separation anxiety. The teacher is saying it will be all right for the child, but we too see mothers after leaving their child in kindergarten. They come, they say, I'm extremely anxious, I don't get sleep, I'm worried about how the child will be in school, concerned about the safety, or always thinking about the child. So, though uncommon, we do see such mothers. Second is escaping anxious situations. There is a definitive stressor in the school. So, typically children older, 11 to 17 years old, they develop. Many comments say that they fear changing their costume for sports or gymnasia, which they feel some sort of anxiety. And these children usually they don't interact with others. They start avoiding others, they eat alone. So it will be easy for us to find whether they have a very anxious temperament. So they are avoiding a particular situation. This is a very important function, which is also challenging for the psychiatrist, because though we can say that separation anxiety is easy to identify, but in clinical setup, the child comes throwing tantrums, they break household articles, the parents are really confused. My child was very shy child. He will not harm, but why does he indulge in such behaviors? So, the main aim is to perceive attention from significant others. So, conditions associated are separation anxiety and ODD. There will be defiance in the morning. That is the main thing. So, previous day, evening, the child will be saying, from tomorrow onwards, I am going to go to school. They will pack, they will do the homework, and next day morning, he is going to be help. So they say I'm not okay, and immediately all the tantrum starts, both from the parent side and also the child side. They also do manipulative behaviors to stay home. Some children induce guilt to the parents that you did that to me on that day. So that also unconsciously induces guilt in the parents. They say, okay, you be home. So to confirm this is the function, we have to inquire whether the child calls home frequently, or some children say they want the mother to stay along with them. At least they should accompany them during the lunch, or they should sit outside. Sometimes I have also written in a writing to school stating that till the child settles, let the mother be in the ground, so the child can view through the window. Some children will frequently ask about the pickup time, some run away from school to home, and another important clue is they cannot separate from the parents in sleepovers or birthday parties. These are all the clues to diagnose separation anxiety. This is a true one child. So refusal due to rewards. So typical adolescent boys, more common in boys. So they receive tangible rewards, more fun to be outside school than in. So they enjoy sleeping late, watching TV, playing PlayStation, internet use, part-time work at a job. And so they get money, they get involved in drugs, sexual activity, and they also get into legal issues. So some parents come and say, doctor, our sleep schedule, we sleep at night, my son whole night he is awake, because he finds there is no disturbance for him to play his online video games, and morning he's fast asleep, so we couldn't do anything to talk to him. So 11 to 17-year-old are affected. Skipping individual classes or depends upon the severity, half a day, full day, but they will not have regrets. They are always with friends who encourage the behavior. boredom at school or lack of motivation could be due to learning disorder. So mostly we see this LD, ODD, truancies, conduct all go hand in hand. They frequently bring up issues like dropping out, or they'll come and say, I may not get a degree to become successful, I have other means. So we should, they need therapy. So next we are coming to the assessment. So because of the heterogeneous nature, a detailed assessment becomes mandatory. So first we have to go by a full medical examination, then detailed diagnostic assessment, then assessment of comorbidity. Medical first. So as anxiety in these conditions can also present as anxiety. Here I could share two of the children whom I saw earlier. One boy who was referred by a pediatrician saying that he was complaining of repeated abdominal pain and not going to school. Ultrasound was not significant. For 1 month we followed the child but couldn't get into the actual reason. Though the child was having severe abdominal pain in the morning and evening with or without the presence of others. So detailed evaluation CT was done and it revealed he had hemangioma of the bile duct. So it was an aggressive tumor and he underwent radiotherapy, chemotherapy, but unfortunately the child is no more. So that was one boy. And another girl, when I was working in Training Medical College, she was referred from surgery department for the same abdominal pain complaints. The child was brought from school saying that she complained of abdominal pain. They suspected appendicitis or some sort of obstruction. A surgeon evaluated, they couldn't find anything, so they referred to psychiatry. It could be feigning illness, so she needs counseling. When I saw the child was extremely sick, so I felt that the child needs a physician assessment, and immediately physician, the smell of the breath, child had fruity odor smell. It is typical of diabetic ketoacidosis. Unfortunately, that child also didn't survive. So, behavioral ratings, child behavior checklist gives a rough idea about what areas need to be concentrated in a very young child. The child may have a temperament, difficult temperament, or some neurotic traits, or attention deficit, or learning problems, all that we could get in the CBCL. The School Refusal Assessment Scale, SRAS, by Carney and Silverman, it's a very important scale, 24-item scale. All the 4 areas, that is the avoidance, attention, rewards, all that, it is scored from 0 to 6 point Likert scale, and which area shows higher severity is the target. Diagnostic interviews for children is also available, and I always make the parent and child to make a point to what is the anxiety provoking content. So sometimes we just tell, and some children, they start writing many things, then we will get to know, because we don't know, these could be the reasons. Just 2 days before a child having conversion disorder, I told to write what all comes to your mind, you're just writing. She had written in pages, which was very helpful in identifying the conflict and for counseling. This is to rule out any psychiatric comorbidity. The child could be having simple phobia of traveling in bus, or manifest anxiety scale, which is a personality trait, and it should be differentiated from the state through state trait anxiety inventory. Social anxiety scale for children to rule out social phobia, and depression inventory. So next comes the assessment of the family. Most of the times we see that a family dynamics plays a significant role. So it could be a coercive family marked with conflicts, or it could be enmeshed family or over-dependent family. The child would be a precious child or an adopted child, where the child is pampered by parents, grandparents. So on fine day when child encounters any small problem in school, child happily stays at home. And detached family, they don't talk among themselves, isolated family, isolated from others, or sometimes healthy family, but child having psychopathology. So treatment approaches should be partnering with school and parents, that is very must. Family therapy comes first, then behavioral, cognitive and pharmacotherapy. Family therapy, first and foremost is parents need psychoeducation. Because real progress occurs only when the parents realize, when the child realize that parents are determined. Because many of the school refusal kids will have hyperventilation symptoms or pseudo seizures, which the family think that my child is so sick, how can the child go to school? But you are saying it's nothing. I know my child is not such a child to do such a kind of behavior. So we have to reassure that though the child is doing like that, it will not lead to any danger. And some parents tend to blame the child, blame the school, saying that teacher was the cause of this behavior. So we should all reassure and treat the family members. Firm, sympathetic and non-negotiable stance should be taken, because when child is manipulative, automatically the parents, the child has learned from the parents. So they will be manipulative. They want, doctor, you please tell this teacher should not do like that. You give it in writing so that my child will go to school. We should be very firm in those stands. And I always tell the parents to do your homework, to read books, why children refuse school and other which are available online. So parents are counseled to pay attention to the positive behaviors. This is the very main important slide, because child in the morning gets up, and when the child starts doing all the work, the parents are encouraged to reward the positive behaviors by praise. And when the child indulges in tantrums, not to comment about that, but to inform that his privilege will be lost, that he will not be having pizza in the evening, he will not be taken out. So that's all. So they should concentrate on the positive attention cycle. Negative attention cycle, what happens is the child waits for the opportunity, and whenever the child says, today I am not going, parents start yelling, lecturing, criticism, all that, they bribe the child. So that negative reinforcement happens, so it's adding on to the problem. So these are taught to the parents. Cognitive behavior therapy, we all know, we have practiced in adults with depression. So it works very well with children too. It's based on the theory of faulty cognitive processing. Remaining at home is avoidant behavior. So that should be told to the child. And challenging unrealistic and inappropriate beliefs should be done. Studies of CBT have been encouraging. So cognitive contracting and in vivo flooding has proved to be 93.3% success in this study by Blagg and Yu in 1984. Psychotherapy alone amounts to 10% only success. And hospitalized patients. I have admitted few children who have school refusal, with whom parents, we can't psychoeducate the parents. They again go for lecturing, yelling, and the children are not comfortable. Already they have the school refusal behavior, parents adding to the stress. So we remove the parents with the help of therapist. We ask the child to have a phone with them. We get permission from the school so that the therapist assist at frequent intervals how the child is doing at school till the child settles. So, in CBT, identifying the emotions, thoughts, behaviors which lead to anxiety and then which causes the school refusal is taught to the child. So, we know there are behavioral intervention, cognitive and physical intervention. This is the booklet I commonly use for children. So, I feel dash. When you go to school, the child can tick it, I feel upset. So what made you to be upset, and how it made the other person feel, the child sitting near you. So the child, it is like building up something. the child is opening up. So when I felt these thoughts raised in my head that I'm going to score poorly in my class test, I will be embarrassed to collect my paper in front of the teacher. So like that, the child will say. And we impart the child necessary corrective thoughts. So instead of those upsetting thoughts, I could have thought these, like that. It's okay, it's not the final exam. And mommy and papa are not demanding me to be a perfectionist in school, like that. So all that, when these children write by themselves, they are easily able to overcome. The thing is, we have to spend lots and lots of time, and as discussed earlier by all speakers, we need lot of people to deal with children. So this is a very cute slide. Chester the cat feels anxious. So when the cat is anxious, the child will have headache, the cat will have headache, and it can't talk, and all that physical symptoms are told to the child in the form of a story. And similarly, some children also feel the same. So can you mark what happened? They are able to tell it. So when they are able to tell it, we then go on to develop a toolkit for them, their own toolkit. So they will feel, some children you have seen, they will take their doll with them to school in kindergarten. That is a transition object, so they feel comfortable. So like that, the child can devise their own calming down tools. We teach them deep breathing and the smiley balls or slime and other things can help calm the child. Nowadays, many schools are asking for help. They are ready to help. We have to give them all this can be done. In fact, they reply very well, and they are telling you are constantly following what you are doing. Next comes the behavioral approaches, systematic desensitization, flooding, emotive imagery. Emotive imagery is interesting because in very young kids who always think of the cartoon characters, when a child refuses school, we can say that if the child likes Dora, see Dora is wearing a backpack and is going to school, so she has chosen you as your friend, and we start creating a story. And when you say that you are upset over this, what do you feel that Dora will say? They recollect and they say, so we will challenge this, we will go through this. So it is easy for the children to have a journal for themselves with all the pictures. That is emotive imagery. In modeling, role play is done. Therapist takes the role of the bully, and the child is modeled, or parent can do that. Shaping and contingency management, you will see later. So systematic desensitization, I like to recall about a child who was always a school topper, and the one thing which mother said that when there is she applies leave for one day, it's extremely difficult for us to make her go on the other day, because she feels that I might have, I don't know how I'm going to pick up, or if there is a test, how will I perform, so all that. And once the child got typhoid, she couldn't attend for 2 weeks, and so there was school refusal. She came after 4 months. So systematic desensitization was done with proper contracting. She was able to list the hierarchy, what was the grade of her fear, and successfully she was able to go to school. Contingency management, it's a behavior technique by Skinner. So reinforcement for the desired behavior, and punishment or otherwise called as withdrawal of the reinforcer for the unwanted behavior. Differential reinforcement is also another technique which we can tell the teachers. So differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior, alternative behavior, other behavior and lower rates. So though I am not going into the details, I will just say that if the child is talking in the class, and ma'am says that when you are going to ask questions or interrupt less than 5 times, you are going to get this reward. So that is differential reinforcement of low rates. Virtual reality and artificial intelligence in the treatment of school phobia. Of late I am using few of these. So one which is easily available is from Google Play Store, Visa. Visa is a penguin, just like Siri or Alexa. It chats with the child and it operates by behavior therapy principles. So when the child says, I'm having a bad day, it says some useful tips which the child can easily employ and then revise his thought. The next is the VR, virtual reality. Nowadays, we are getting with such goggles with our phone. Samsung Galaxy had come with this. So it's very useful. So school phobia or any sort of phobia can be treated this way. I always use biofeedback for adults. It's also proving to be effective for children. Children who are in the adolescent group who can understand that my temperature gets increased or my galvanic stress response in skin response gets increased when I am stressed. So a 3-minute video of relaxation or a cartoon or children playing actually brings down the stress. Pharmacotherapy, we all know, tricyclic antidepressants, fluoxetine and benzodiazepines. Benzodiazepine, word of caution because of the behavioral disinhibition, and it could be used for the short-term treatment of anxiety. So also evidence also proves that medication combined with therapy holds good, and SSRI has been found very effective. Prognosis. So about 25% remit spontaneously. If greater than 2 years, definitely the treatment is limited. Anxiety disorder or major depression in adulthood is likely. 1/3 continue to experience severe emotional or social difficulties. So thank you for your patient listening, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your enlightening presentation about such a needed topic for this generation. Would like to invite the chairpersons for discussion.
Good morning. Excellent presentation, ma'am. Before we could open our chat box, I have a couple of queries. What would happen in school refusal before 2019? How was the school refusal, and how it is going to be in 2021? See what happens now. We are letting our children to be at home and study online classes. Most probably this whole year students will have hybrid classes like this, and so they'll opt being at home. And even in 2022 also, they might say that I am comfortable with viewing the classes in a online mode. So they might even future say that I'll prefer be at home. So how are you going to do that?
Definitely COVID has, I feel that it will worsen children having school refusal. So we should be prepared or to anticipate in the upcoming academic year. We should be with full gears that how to help the child with school refusal in the next upcoming year. So they are negatively reinforced again. Being at home, I can study. So why can't my school allow me to be like that? So ultimately, it will. Some schools may opt for online classes for such kids. We don't know what happens. We have to wait and see. But definitely, the refusal behaviors will be on rise.
One more question out of curiosity. Is there any measures we can do to prevent this school refusal, especially in children whom the parents are planning to join in a school, in LKG or so? Is there any measures where we can sensitize the parents before putting them on school? And second thing is, in line with this, what would be your advice? Whether we could see children going to kindergarten. They wake up at 6 o'clock to get the bus at 7, And what would be your advice in these things?
Thank you. Definitely, sir. Parents need sensitization. Like what I would usually say, some parents come and ask eagerly, what can we do for the child to get adapt? Because our child is a sensitive child, he has separation anxiety. We definitely anticipate that the child will be facing problems. So what I tell them is, when they have enrolled a child in a school, they have to take the child 2 weeks before meet the they have to take a trip inside the school, the classrooms, where the parent will be waiting, and what are the how the child will be traveling, all that, and then eagerly purchase the notebooks, bags and all that. So create a very positive feedback to the child, and then reward much when the child starts attending school. And also the parents should talk to the teachers, stating that my child is a timid child, she needs your help, and that should be clearly told. And many teachers understand. They usually say, you could have told us, we need not be very strict to your child, we will be like that to other children. So the parents should be educated about that. And regarding getting very early in the morning, so nowadays getting admission is difficult, so when it is not advisable. But when the parents say like that, we always encourage that sleeping late. Nowadays parents say that my child is sleeping around 11 p.m. or when the father comes home, only the child sleeps. So we advise the mothers to finish the work earlier, to put the child to sleep, then you continue with other works. So 9 to 10 hours of sleep is definitely must. And any other food also. Nowadays children are not taking healthy foods, and lot of screen times. Screen time is changing the biological rhythm. So all these should be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have a question to Preeti. It was a nice presentation. So, just a modification of what Arun Kumar sir said, and how school refusal has changed in these COVID times. Some people, they feel comfortable, but at the same time, some person, they feel they don't have the interaction with peers. So, how the scenario and the psychopathology has changed in COVID time, I want to.
Yeah.
And one more thing is how common the learning disabilities in school refusal. It's very, very, almost all cases, nearly I see there is some element of learning disability.
Definitely, sir.
Learning disorders,
Yeah.
specific learning disorders.
Yes. So as Dr. Arun Kumar sir told, the reverse also is happening. I am seeing children who are depressed. They are feeling lonely. And I have seen for the past 2 months, I have seen more than 10 cases. All parents come and say that because of lockdown, my child is secluded in a room. So, and the child has lost interest in studies and not attending the classes. Even complaints are coming from school that is going off from the online classes. So it is, we should also, this is very common than that. I too feel the same. Then the other question, a learning disability, definitely. Yesterday too I saw a boy whom I have seen 6 years back. I have diagnosed as learning disability. Parents had come for remedial education classes for a month and then they couldn't come. Now the child is in adolescence. He has substance abuse and all delinquent behavior, truancy, and it becomes very difficult to make them. Still now the parents, we are finding it difficult to make them understand. But at this stage, remediation of LD is also not possible. So more of parental education and CBT with the child will help.
Can you tell me about the relationship between the ANSYS award and child and school refusal?
as I told earlier, sir, it is a trait anxiety. So these children will, at one point of time, they will develop school refusal. And I have a boy who has this typical anxious avoidant type. He refuses to make eye contact with me. He is addicted to PlayStation. So these children, they get that sense of self through playing video games, and he says, I'm an anxious kid. He is aware of all his problems, but he says, I couldn't come out of it, and this is the thing. So you just tell my mom that I'm not too addicted, just I'm playing a little more. So it's very common, sir. Yes.
Just for the benefit of the postgraduates, so you're told that parental education is one of the backbone in school refusal. How to do about it? So what are how many sessions you would take, and what are the areas you will try to discuss with the parents? And I think this is for the benefit of the PGs.
Usually for any type of developmental disorder or school refusal, we usually give a pre-test evaluation. So what they think about the problem. Then we see how the parents know about this. Then we will psychoeducate them we use lot of sessions with videos from the YouTubes, and also we give them printouts which they can follow. So when parents are engaged, and when we also give the positive scenario. See, this child, some parents tell that you can give our numbers to other parents. We are ready to help them also, because we know the situation is too turbulent for any parent to undergo this. So we sort of give their numbers, and it is definitely helping. So parental education is the highlight of treatment in school refusal. Yeah, alternate interest. Yes, sir. It is very normal phenomena, and I have seen children and parents who are not going to normal school. They just appear for the exams. They are very well versed in chess or something. They are state players, national players. So that cannot be called a school refusal. No need for school, I think so.
I think before ending, I'll have a last question. In your experience, what are the school causes? I mean, causes related to the school causing school refusal?
Definitely. When I started the Child Guidance Center, I approached many schools stating that I could assess children who are having learning problems. Immediately they told such type of children they are not at all there in our school. அந்த childrenலாம் இங்க கிடையவே கிடையாது. These children are not studying because they are wasting time in watching TV. So that was their response. So definitely, whenever they call me for any small meeting in a play school or something like that, this is the opportunity for them to sensitize through anecdotes, how they can be taught to identify school refusal. So once they are sensitized, nowadays many are getting sensitized, and interns from nursing colleges and other psychology postgraduates, all that, when they come, when we talk in a mass, then we are able to help those children.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. I'd like to invite the chairpersons to honor the speaker with a memento and certificate. Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to invite Dr. Pani Selvam, sir, organizing chairman, to honor the chairperson, Dr. Babu Bala Singh, sir. Thank you, sir. I'd like to invite Dr. Sivasailam, sir, organizing secretary, to honor the other chairperson, Dr. N. Arun Kumar, sir.